from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell and I'm in London, where I was at the annual luncheon awards of the Cricket Writers Club earlier in the week. That's the organisation that represents the media predominantly in the UK, but also abroad. So we dished out our annual awards, one of which was a trophy in memory of the late Bob Willis. It was for an England Player of the Year, and that went to Jonny Bairstow, who you're going to hear from later in the show as well. But we were very impressed that he turned up because he was on crutches after the nasty injury that he suffered not too long ago. Other award winners included Catherine Brunt. She was honoured for the longevity of her 18-year England career and the impact that she's had both on and off the field. But it's always a good lunch. Jim, you would approve it started at midday and went on till about 11 p.m. after some of us had shifted onto a nearby pub. So a very convivial occasion to mark the end of the England season.
Well, man, he kicked you out because you run out of soft drinks. Yeah.
Someone had to kick us out.
I'm sure someone kicked on, but it sounds like a good party. Jim Maxwell for the ABC in Sydney, and I have to tell you that in Sydney, it's a good place for a party because there's no point going outside. It rains and it rains and it rains, and we're very close to the world record for Sydney for rain, which is about 1,600 mils in a year in 1860, I think. So sadly, that's affecting some cricket. But it didn't stop New South Wales from playing in Western Australia and losing a one-day game which took only 34 overs and then losing a Shield match which took less than 3 days. And a name out of that to look at, unusual name, Teague Wiley, 18-year-old from Western Australia who made 100. So think of Teague Wiley. Could be the next Ricky Ponting, so they say.
One to watch.
And I'm Sunil Gupta for All India Radio New Delhi, where I'm listening enviously to people defrosting cars in Manchester and Jim having a row and all that in Sydney. Right now, the first sort of very meek and shy tendrils of autumn are creeping in. We don't run the ACs mostly during the day now, so that's a blessing. But you're talking about new players, Jim. Well, we've just had the Irani Trophy match, which is the Ranji Trophy champions against the rest of India. And the rest of India obviously are upcoming stars. And there are three more who've been unearthed, who've been around, but have displayed their wares. One is Sarfaraz Khan. He's hit his umpteenth century in the first-class game. And then there are two fast bowlers, Mukesh Kumar, who is a swing bowler. And the last one is Kuldeep Sen. You might have seen him in the IPL playing for the Rajasthan Royals. He picked up 8 wickets in that game of the Irani Trophy. And he's now one of the net bowlers being taken to Australia, as is Mukesh Kumar for the T20 World Cup. You'll hear a lot of these guys. Remember, I spoke about Surya Kumar Yadav. Well, really, he played very well in the ODI series that have just concluded with Australia and South Africa, which India won, incidentally, 2-1. But these are the new names that are coming up. And I am so happy to see some new names, new talent coming up here in India.
Yeah, it's great to always learn about new names to look out for. But what of some of those established names? And we're going to start the programme by talking about one of those because he's going to be missing from the men's T20 World Cup for India. It's a huge blow that's been dealt. Fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah, one of the world's very best, ruled out of the tournament. So he's suffering with a stress fracture of the back, something which he felt come on just before India's recent T20 series with South Africa. He'd already missed the Asia Cup before that with a stress injury. That was on the other side of his back. This one is believed to be on the other side. Sunil, just go into the importance of Bumrah to the India side and the effect it'll have through him not being there.
You know, I was thinking of Bumrah and his bowling style, and you've all seen it, right? And to my mind, the sort of impression I get, or the image that comes in front of me, is a Picasso versus a Monet. So you have a Monet like James Anderson, you have Picasso, all angles, and it was bound to happen. It happened a couple of years ago. He put so much stress on his back and the way that he comes and bowls and all the elbows flying everywhere. I'm surprised it hasn't happened more often. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is I firmly believe in, having come from the corporate world, that no one is indispensable. And in fact, I always see this. I remember when I was in the corporate, I would say it's an opportunity for somebody else to step into those shoes. right? Here's the biggest platform, the World Cup T20. What better? I've just given you two names, Kuldeep Sen and Mukesh Kumar. There's so many others. There's Shami there in the background. There's Siraj. There's so many of these that are there. They should pick up the mantle. And who says you can't bowl Yorkers and you can't bowl them at 140 clicks, 145? So that's the other part of it. But I honestly do believe it's a blessing in disguise. And frankly, I think now is the time for him and the selectors and the board to say, we need to monitor your workload. If and when you come back into cricket, don't play all the formats, right? You've got to be able to ensure that he's ready for only some of them, because he cannot take the strain. And he will not be the same bowler when he comes back, because, Jim, you'll know, it's somewhere there in the back of your mind. You know, I've got this stress fracture and it's because of the action that I have and so on and so forth. You're never going to be the same. At least I hope he will, but it's going to be very difficult.
Gosh, don't say that. There's a ton of England bowlers out with stress fractures this year, and everyone's hoping that they will return and be fit when they come back. But yeah, it's got to have a bit of a psychological impact. Jim, in India, they don't have Ravindra Jadeja already. He's out of the tournament. And India weren't, at their best at the Asia Cup. They're not managing to make the final, but they have beaten both Australia and South Africa in T20 series since then. So where do you think India are at then as a team, and now without Bumrah?
Oh, they're vulnerable, but, they need some of their established players to turn up a bit more. I think like Rohit and Kohli, Pant. I think their batting's been a bit inconsistent for the quality of the players they've got. And they've got some resources there when it comes to trying to defend or attack with a new ball at the start of a T20 game. I'm interested in what Sunil was saying, because Pat Cummins made a very strong point about the Australian team and the huge push we have going on here with Cameron Green to be a member of the squad. And Cummins made the point that, one of the reasons I'm playing now is that I was managed in the early part of my career, and they want to do the same with Cameron Green. So this is a fair issue in the game to consider when you look at the amount of cricket involved, and there has to be a way of keeping these players right for the big games, and that's what I've been writing today about this T20 World Cup. It's not a matter of being the best side all the time. It's being the best side when it matters.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on ABC and All India Radio.
Well, another man who won't be featuring at the T20 World Cup in Australia this month is England star batter Jonny Bairstow. Bairstow won the Bob Willis Trophy earlier this week after being voted England's Player of the Year by the Cricket Writers Club. And he received the trophy on crutches when he got up on stage at the annual lunch in London. He was also on this incredible sort of half wheelchair, sort of kneeling contraption to help him get around a little bit earlier as well. It was a great effort that he made to travel down to London. Bairstow made 6 Test centuries in 2022, including some incredible counter-attacking knocks. But he's now out of action for the rest of this year after what was a really nasty and freak injury, slipping on a steep tee box when he was playing golf and breaking his leg in multiple places. Well, I caught up with him a couple of days ago to ask him how he's doing in his recovery.
Unfortunately, it's a rather large injury that was such a freakish thing that's happened. So we're definitely not looking at anything to do with 2022. It's definitely starting with the 2023, I'm afraid.
You have had an incredible year. First of all, let's just keep it really simple. What was the part of the summer? Which innings, which moment did you enjoy the most?
It's one of those summers that we'll remember as a group of people and I'm sure as a cricketing nation. And we'll look back and go, I remember the 2005 Ashes summer very, very fondly. And it's that kind of summer that then I was inspired by the guys in 2005 with the spectacle they put on. And I'm hopeful that we as a group of people have inspired the next generation, if you like to say, or however you want to put it, or even people that haven't played the game of cricket that have flicked on and we've entertained them. So to point out one thing, I don't think it's fair. And it probably wouldn't be one of the hundreds, to be honest with you.
What would it be?
Well, I just look at the shifts in which, from a vocal side of things, like from a way of going about it, from the approach that we've tried to go about it, we've been brave enough to we speak about going towards the danger. We've been brave enough to actually try and shift things towards the danger, and it's not going to work. We know that people have speculated about whether it's the right, wrong approach. We're not going to get it right all the time, but we've won 6 out of 7 test matches this summer, which hasn't been done for a long, long time. So we must be doing something right, and we've been brave enough to take that challenge head on, because it was 1 in 17 tests, wasn't it? I think that we'd won, and then all of a sudden to win 6 out of 7. Well, it has been a shift, and a seismic shift as well.
What do you like about Brendan McCullum and working with him and Stokes in partnership?
He's a hell of a bloke, a great guy. He's a good golf partner because his handicap should be less than what it is. Yeah, that's it's always a plus when you're playing on his team. I just think that the way in which he went about the game, and then how he's tried to empower people to play a game with freedom and bravery is a different way of looking at Test cricket. I think that understanding that we're playing at the highest level and we've got to enjoy that rather than heaping a load of pressure on ourselves whilst we're doing it, which at times can be tricky to separate the two, is one thing. But then building that relationship with Ben as well. And the relationship is still building and will carry on to build. It's a very strong thing to have as a leadership pair, because look, we weren't in a good place at the start of the summer as a group of players. As England cricket, we weren't really in an amazing bit, and it's actually quite interesting to hear the shift of people now speaking about Test cricket being stronger than white ball cricket. It's like, hang on a minute, and then questioning things about the white ball team, and you're going, hang on a minute, like, oh well, yeah, it's not this strong, it's changed, we're in the transition. It's like, well, we're not really in a transition. Yes, Morgs has stepped down from captaincy, but other than that, there's not many personnels that look like changes. The bowlers haven't been fit. We're missing 5 or 6 people from the white ball team that was we would have liked, but that's exactly the same as what happened in the red ball side. Like, there was 5 or 6 people missing in the red ball side that over a period of time that we'd have liked to have played, of course. So it's interesting how the shift then changes from side to side. But like I say, with Baz and Ben, the consistent messaging has been fantastic, and the buy-in from the boys has been brilliant too.
Was there a particular part of Brendan McCullum's kind of philosophy or the approach with him and Stokes that particularly sort of resonated with you, had sort of particular meaning, which you thought, yeah, I really connect with that. That's kind of, this really works for me?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think it's an empowerment side of things as well, and a belief that's instilled within the player, and trying to understand how to get the best out of that. I hadn't worked with Brendan before, and you can see that he understands people, and he gets people. So that's a big plus in building a relationship with a coach. And Ben hadn't captained much prior to it either, so it's a learning thing for him as well. So it's not one thing, but you can see there's snippets of bits that you're able to resonate strongly with.
Jonny, what are you doing with your time when you're injured? Because it's a challenging time for a cricketer who is used to being so busy all of the time. So how are you managing yourself?
To be honest with you, I'm currently sat on the ice machine at the moment. So that's going to be a huge part of my life over the next, a few months, to be quite honest with you. So I'm sat on that. To be quite honest, it's going to be a slow process with things. So this early stage is the bit that's going to be tricky, because you need to get all the healing right, and then you're able to go. And if you try and do things too early, then all of a sudden it affects things down the line. So I've got a few bits that I'm going to do, and a bit of a university course.
Really? What are you going to study?
We're just doing a strategic leadership course. So that kind of thing. And so, yeah, there's plenty of things to keep me entertained. I'll be an expert cook and expert fire maker by the end of this winter, because I'll be making plenty of them. So I'm excited to actually spend a bit of time at home, because been fortunate over the last 12, 14 years that I haven't actually had a winter off at home. So you've got to try and take a positive out of a negative, if you can do that. So spending a bit of time here with loved ones, see some of my friends that you don't get to see through the winter, throw some clothes out, clear the wardrobe out. I've not worn that in 5 years because I've been living out of a suitcase. So donate them to charity. All of the normal stuff that sometimes you can take for granted, I'll be doing, because we're not going and transitioning from Australia to Pakistan to South Africa to wherever it may be. That's what I'll be doing.
Well, that was Jonny Bairstow speaking to me as the Cricket Writers Club England Player of the Year, winner of the Bob Willis Trophy. He was speaking to me, lounged on the couch with his leg in its cast and his boot cast stretched out in front of him. He had his dog join him on the couch at one point as well. His mum was in the background, so I'm not sure. I think he might have been at his mum's house. But yeah, Janet was keeping an eye on him, and so he'll have the company of his family. But it gives you a little bit of an insight, doesn't it, into the non-stop travelling nature of the international cricketer. And now it's a real unfamiliar pause, but it sounds like he's going to make the most of it, and you've got to take that almost as an opportunity. Jim, I know you were mightily impressed by Bairstow's form over the English summer, and it's a real shame for him and for England, isn't it?
Well, a shame for all of us, because we want to see the best players playing the game, and he'll be missed. I liked his commentary on Brendan McCullum. He said he inferred that he's instilled a freedom and bravery in the England team. And if that's the case, if they can maintain the momentum, consistency through all of this, then they're going to be a force even without him. But he had some serious grunt to the middle order, particularly in places where the boundary is easy to clear and the pitch is in good nick. So he'll be sorely missed in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so 2023 before we see him in action on the field again. Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped on All India Radio. You can follow us on Twitter. Don't forget, we're at BBCWS Sport, and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And you can watch us on YouTube as well. If you go to the BBC World Service's YouTube channel, you'll find us there. My thanks to Sunil Gupta and to Jim Maxwell, and of course to all of you. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service, in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.